Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a really fun video and starting a new series of where I'm going to be talking about books that I've read in different seasons. So this video I'm going to be talking about all of the books that I read in spring. So I've seen a couple creators do this over the years and I thought, well, why don't I just start doing this, because it's a good way to keep track of all of the 5-star books that I read. And yeah, so I wanted to do it. So these are going to be all of the 5-star books that I read in spring. So let's get right into this video. I have so many books to share with you. This year so far has been really good for me with reading a lot of great 5-star reads. So let's get right into it. First 5-star read, this is from March, was The Duke and Lady in Red by Lorraine Heath. This is a historical romance, and basically the heroine was trying to con the hero. And she basically was trying to like steal his money. And he's like, no, you're not going to do that. And he's like, if you want this money, then you have to spend 1 week with me doing whatever I want with you. And so that's kind of how the story kicks off. And it is such a great story. So they start falling for each other during this week together. But then she has to take care of a family member who's going through a lot of health problems. And this book was just so good. It's very angsty, very emotional, and it is fantastic. Then I have The Birthday List by Devney Perry. This one's a really unique romance. So our heroine loses her husband, and the hero is the cop who told her that her husband had passed. And so now it is years later, and the heroine over the years has been trying to complete this birthday list that her and her husband created of all of the things, like bucket list things they wanted to do each birthday. And so one of these like things is that they go to like a karate class or a self-defense class, and that's when she is reacquainted with the hero again. And so they start hanging out more, and he starts to help her with this birthday list, and that's kind of when their relationship starts. And it is so good. I really love this one, and how patient the hero was with the heroine, of her still going through her grief. And this is a small town romance also, so it was really fun. I really liked how like the heroine has this restaurant that she created with her husband, this idea of having these like mason jars that she would like, that's why, because their last name is Mason. So that was really fun. I just thought this was cute, and there's some action towards the end because they still haven't found her husband's killer, so he starts working on the case, and there's some action with that. This was really fun, and I really liked it. Then I have another historical romance. This is Yours Until Dawn by Teresa Medeiros. This is a kind of Beauty and the Beast retelling a little bit. So our hero lost his eyesight in war, and so now he's a recluse because he just doesn't want to be in the real world right now, and he wants to kind of heal, but he really doesn't want to heal. He just wants to basically stew and not do anything with the rest of his life because he just feels like there's no point to it. And so the heroine comes to the picture where she's going to be his nurse, and so he's very grumpy, she's very sunshine, and so they start forming, like, it's hate to love, then friendship to love, and it's just so cute and fun. But there's some very emotional aspects of this book that I really loved. It was just a great historical romance. I have The Frat Boy by Nikki Sloan. This one is such a fun romance. I really love this one. So our hero and heroine are in college, and they absolutely hate each other. She's in a sorority and he's in a fraternity, and so they do this like I don't know what it is. It's like a race sort of thing between like a competition. And so she basically sees one of the guys on his frat cheat, and they win, and she is just like disgusted, and it's like, I can't let this happen. And so she basically stirs this big uproar and this fight. And so it gets them both kicked out of their like respective fraternity and sorority, and so they both have nowhere to live. And so she answers this ad in this paper to go to this house where she can stay there, but she has to do some adult videos. And so she goes there and she ends up seeing the hero, and they end up having to do an adult video scene together. And so they have so much chemistry on screen, but they hate each other in like real life, and it is so good. I really love this one. Then I have Look the Part by Julie Ann. This is a single dad office romance. So Our hero is a single dad. He's a lawyer and he owns this office building, and the heroine comes in and she starts leasing the office building, office space below him, and she is a music therapist, and so she uses music to help people through their therapy. And her profession is very loud and he gets very annoyed at her. It definitely starts off as very grumpy sunshine, and he has a son, and so she starts helping him with music therapy, and it's really cute. But there's just so many funny, quirky moments in this book that I really loved. But there was some emotionality in this one because the hero really blames himself for what happened to his wife. And I really love this one. It was so good. Then I have Scoundrel in My Heart by Lauren Heath. This is a historical romance. Second chance, very angsty. So our hero and heroine, the hero is the heroine's best friend's older brother. And so she was basically supposed to be betrothed to this duke, and he kind of forced her into being betrothed to him, even though she started falling for the hero. And then the hero, something happens to him where he's not in the picture anymore for a couple of months, and she's stuck with this duke who she doesn't want to marry. And so now the hero comes back into the picture and she goes to visit him, and she is so incredibly mad at him for leaving her and leaving her in this situation. It's very angsty because she can't say no to a duke, but she is in love with the hero, so she has to make some tough decisions. It is really good. I love this one. Then I have Mercy by Sarah Kate. This is definitely my favorite book in the Salacious Players Club series. So this one follows our hero, who is the son of the hero from the first book, and so his dad owns the Salacious Players Club, and he was really horrible to his dad about owning this pleasure club, and his dad is dating his ex-girlfriend, so that kind of goes we get into what he feels about that. And I thought that was really interesting because we don't really get the boyfriend's perspective of that situation. And so the heroine is one of the club owners, and she has never been into kinks and anything like that, and so she discovers that she's actually a dom, and she's there's no way that I can be this. And the hero discovers that he is a submissive, and so they meet up randomly on this app anonymously and see each other and realize oh crap, you're this person and I'm this person. But then they're well, why don't we just experiment with this together? And so they start having kind of a relationship, and it's really good. They have to hide it from his dad. And I really like this one. It was very emotional because he had to kind of come to terms with how he treated Charlie, his ex-girlfriend, who is now married to his dad, and really had to face what he did. And I really like that one. So I really love this. Then I have Highest Bidder by Sarah Kate. I gave this one 4.5 stars, but I just wanted to include it on this list. This is a very big age gap romance, and kind of sugar daddy a little bit. So the hero and heroine meet in the Salacious Players Club, and he kind of takes a liking to her, and it feels really bad for her because she doesn't have the best living situation. She lives in her van, and so he's well, why don't you just stay with me till you get back on your feet? And so they start hanging out, and he takes her on this trip to Paris, very prestige, and then that's when they start kind of a romance, and it's really fun. I really thought this was such a fun, very big age gap romance. He's 56 or in his mid to early 50s, and she's in her early 20s. So I like this one. I thought it was really fun, and it was just a very good, fun, spicy time. Then I have Love in the Afternoon by Lisa Kleypas. This is a historical romance. So our hero and heroine have never gotten along, and the heroine has always been very quirky and kind of weird. He thinks that she's weird, and they've never gotten along, but the hero goes off to war, and he had been writing the heroine's best friend, and her best friend is I don't want to write him anymore. So the heroine decides to start writing him, and talking to him and corresponding with him, and they kind of start up a romance, an epistolary romance, but he still thinks that it's her best friend. And so when he gets back home, he is I'm in love with her best friend, but it's really the heroine. And so she kind of doesn't want to tell him, but then he figures it out, and he's so mad at her, but then he's I love you, I want to be with you. Kind of hate to love at first. He thinks that she's very quirky, but then he grows to love her quirkiness, and I just really love this one. Definitely one of my favorites from Lisa Kleypas. It was just such a fun romance, and I really loved how protective and possessive he became of her once he realized it was her that he like had fallen in love with. Then I have Hate by Madison Kate. This is a Why Choose, not like motorcycle romance. It's not a motorcycle. I don't know why I almost said that. But it's a Why Choose, like hate to love romance. And so our heroine basically gets framed for something that she didn't do. And it was because of the heroes. And so now she's back in town after being like shipped off to Europe for boarding school from her dad, who's like the mayor of the town. And now she realizes that she has to stay with those guys who basically framed her for this thing that she didn't do. And she absolutely hates them, but they are like, we have to protect you. And she's basically like, leave me alone, like I hate you. And it's just such a fun romance. I really like this one, and there's like a twist at the end, and so I'm excited to continue on with this series. Then I have Coach by Devney Perry. This is a single dad, second chance romance, kind of. So our heroine and hero were best friends in college, and he was actually in a relationship, but he was about to break up with his girlfriend and make a move on the heroine, but then he finds out that his ex-girlfriend was pregnant, and so he basically ghosts the heroine for years because he was so freaked out about finding out that he was a dad and he was like about to make a move on her. And so he basically ghosts her for years and doesn't talk to her ever again after he almost made a move on her. So now it's years later, and he is coming back to their alma mater to be the head football coach, and he realizes that the heroine works there. And so now he wants to like all of his feelings are resurfacing, and he wants to like start up maybe a relationship with her again, but she's like, no, you really hurt me. Like, I loved you as a friend first, and I started to have feelings for you, but you never explained what happened. You just left me. And so he's also a single dad to a darling little girl, and she's so cute. And I loved her relationship with the heroine. It was just such a fun romance. And then they kind of have to hide their romance from their workplace, and then they have to deal with his ex, and I just really like this one. It was such a solid romance from Devney Perry. Then I have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. I listened to this on audio, and the audio is amazing of this one. So our hero and heroine don't get off on the right foot. They are both doctors, and the heroine was vying for this new job position, and she thinks that the hero like basically took it from her, and so she really doesn't like him at first. But then he writes her a letter being like, hey, I have like a ton of anxiety and so sorry that we didn't get off on the right foot. I'm sorry if I offended you. I didn't mean it. Blah, blah, blah. And so they kind of start up this friendship, and she's dealing with a lot because she recently just got out of a really nasty divorce, and her brother, I think, is going into kidney failure, and so they really have to find a kidney for him very fast, or else he can't survive much longer on dialysis. And so the hero basically is like, well, I'll give your brother a kidney. And the heroine is so thankful. It's like, what can I do for you? Like, you basically changed my life. And he's like, well, if you could help me fake date and be my date to my brother's wedding. And his brother is marrying his ex-girlfriend, the hero's ex-girlfriend. And so she's like, sure. And so they start fake dating, and it blossoms into a romance. And I love this one. I loved the anxiety representation. It was just so good. Then I have Powerless by Elsie Silver. This is a friends to lovers romance. So our heroine Sloane basically found out that her soon-to-be husband cheated on her wedding day, and so she broke off the engagement and ran away from her wedding with the hero Jasper, who has been her best friend for years. And so they decide to go on this road trip, and they start realizing that they both have had feelings for each other for years. They both like secretly had feelings, but they've never admitted it to each other. And Jasper is a little bit older than her, and so they grew up together. Like she's cousins with his best friends, and so he was kind of taken in as like a family member basically. And so it is just so good when they finally like are like, oh my gosh, like this person had feelings for me too. and they finally have a romance, and it is so good. I loved this friends to lovers romance. It was incredible. Then I have Echoes of You, the newest romance from Catherine Cowles. This book was so good. So our hero and heroine have been best friends for years, and the heroine left town to move to Atlanta with her boyfriend at the time, but then it turns out that he was very abusive to her, and so she decides to run away and come back home. And that's when she is reacquainted with the hero, and she didn't see him for years because of how manipulative and like psychotic her ex was. And so now they are friends, getting their friendship back and going again. But then she's realizing that she has feelings for him, and he has feelings for her, and then he like sees what her ex did to her, and he's like, who did this to you? Very protective. And then there's some action and suspense with her ex, and it's just such a good romance. I love this one. Then I have Marrying Winterborne by Lisa Kleypas. This is such a fun historical romance, and so they have been betrothed, the hero and heroine, from like the first book. This is the second book in the Ravenel series, and they were supposed to get married, but then they almost didn't. So now they're married, and she is very quiet and more introverted, and Mr. Winterborne is not like that, but he becomes very protective over her and is very possessive over her. It's a major convenience. It's fantastic. I loved it. Then I have The Words by Ashley Jade. This is a second chance rock star romance. So our hero and heroine were best friends in high school, but then the hero does something to really hurt and betray the heroine, and now it's years later, and he is in a huge, very famous rock band, and he needs a sober partner. And so his team basically asks the heroine, like, can you be his partner? And she's very reluctant, but she needs the money. So she's like, yes. And so they start going on the road together, and all of their feelings start resurfacing of when they were together in high school. And it is really good, very angsty, very emotional, just fantastic. They have Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This is a reverse age gap romance, small town romance. So the heroine basically gets into a small accident in the small town, and the hero helps her. Then they have a one night stand together, and then the next day she goes back home, thinking that she's never going to see him again. But then her and her best friends go on this like girls weekend trip, and they visit his house. He like rents out this house for like vacations, and she sees him again, and they get reacquainted and start up a romance. But she lives in the city and he lives in this small town, and she's going through a lot with her personal life, and it was just so good, very angsty, because she was like, I want to be with you, but I have these obligations. And the small town of this one is just so funny and quirky, and he has like a pet goat. It's very like cute, and I love this one. Then I have Devil in Spring by Lisa Kleypas. The hero in this one is the son of Sebastian from Devil in Winter, so I loved seeing some cameos of Sebastian and Evie in this one. And so like the hero and heroine basically get into a compromise position, and he is like, we have to get married now, and she's like, no, I don't want to marry you. And so he starts courting her, and she is really funny. She's a very funny heroine. She's like, I want to be my own woman. I don't want to be tied down by a man. And he kind of has to prove to her like we are very compatible for each other, and it is very good. He gets very possessive over her, and I just love this romance. It was so good. I loved seeing Sebastian and all of those characters again, and it was just such a solid romance from Lisa Kleypas. Then I have Silent Waters by Brittany C. Cherry. This is a very emotional and angsty romance. I don't want to say too much, but just go in blind, because I loved it, and I listened to it on audio and finished it in a day because it was so good. Just know it's very emotional and angsty, but worth it. It was just, I loved it. I have Devil's Daughter by Lisa Kleypas. This is a single mom romance, widow like romance. So the heroine is a widower, and she meets the hero who was her late husband's like school bully in boarding school, and so she absolutely hates the hero because of that. But then she starts to get to know him and starts falling for him, but then she's like, I can't fall in love with the man who my late husband absolutely hated. And she is also a single mom, so she has 2 young boys, and she's like, well, they need a father figure, and she starts to fall for Wes, and her boys have this amazing connection with Wes. It's just such a cute relationship. I love this one. Such a fun romance, unique because you don't really see a ton of single moms in historical romances, so I really like this one. Then I have Blame It On Tequila by Fiona Cole. This is a rock star second chance romance. So our hero and heroine were best friends in high school and then had a relationship. They were also step siblings, so it was kind of forbidden. But then something happens where they break up and they don't see each other for years and years. And then the hero and then they see each other again, and the hero is just like so sorry for what he did to the heroine, and she's like, I want nothing to do with you. But then she gets an offer from his team to work with them on tour because he is a rock star, he's in a band, and she in high school would help them with like lyrics and writing songs, and she's like, okay. So she starts going on the road with him, and he has to prove to her that he is worth it and worth her love, and it is just so good. Very angsty because she doesn't want to fall for him again and get hurt, but she knows she like loves him deep down. It was just so good. I have The Wrong Heart by Jennifer Hartman. This is a grumpy / sunshine romance, very emotional. The heroine loses her husband, and then she contacts the person who received her husband's heart and starts to fall for him, and it is very taboo, very emotional, very angsty and messy, and it is a great time. I love this one. And then the last two books are from the same author and from the same series, and that is Little Lies by Helena Hunting and Bittersweet Heart, which I'll show in a minute. Little Lies is such a good romance. It is an angsty, like kind of second chance but not really romance. So our hero and heroine were best friends when they were younger, and the heroine goes through something very traumatic when she was young, and so ever since then she has really depended on the hero for everything, for her like mental health, her emotions, for making her feel better. And then her parents are like, this is not healthy, you guys can't keep doing this, so they separate them for years, and now it's years later and they're both in college and they have to see each other again, and the hero really keeps trying to distance himself away from the heroine because he's like, we can't go down that road again, because we depended on each other so much that it was bad for us and very toxic. And so he really pushes her away and really is really mean to her, and she like loves him, and he starts doing things like protecting her and doing things that makes her think like maybe he doesn't hate her, and it is so good. I love this one. And then the last book I'm going to share is Bittersweet Heart. This is a student-teacher romance, a very angsty, reverse age gap romance. So the hero and heroine have a summer fling, and then when he goes back to college for his senior year, he sees the heroine and realizes that she is his professor. And so it is very good, very angsty because they can't be together. And I love this one so good. I love the audio of this one and Little Lies. Highly recommend. Alright, well, that is the end of this video. I loved sharing all of these, but that was a lot. There were lots of books to share. But I want to thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye.